Thank you, Joe. I think it's very fortuitous that I happen to be giving this speech on the same night that one of our newest members gave her Icebreaker. Awesome job, Karina. Wonderful. Thank you. Speaking to all of our veteran Toastmasters in the room, how many of you remember giving your Icebreaker speech? Of course, we all do. It's kind of a rite of passage, isn't it? Not unlike when you went on your first date. You're probably nervous, awkward, as we all are, at any beginning. Fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, this is a story of my beginning. I originally joined Toastmasters for probably the same reason as many of you, to overcome an absolute terror of public speaking. And like myself, you may have developed that fear in the same place that I did, in school. Being a painfully shy kid, I was always hesitant to raise my hand in class. And God forbid I was ever called on. Have you ever had that moment when it seemed that every pair of eyes in the room were staring right at you, and you had nothing to offer but a blank stare and a desperate wish for the ground to open up beneath you and swallow you whole? I believe this common experience has brought many of us to Toastmasters. And yet, despite this paralyzing fear, public speaking is something I really and truly wanted to be good at. Some people idolize sports figures. Others revere famous musicians or movie stars. My heroes have always been those individuals who can confidently stand in front of an audience and captivate them with their wit, intelligence, and inspiration. That was my dream, my vision of the person I wanted to be. For that reason, I didn't just want to give an icebreaker speech. I wanted to crush it. Of course, this was my very first speech, ever. And in retrospect, I probably should have just read my speech rather than trying to memorize it. But oh no, that didn't fit my grandiose expectations. I wanted to knock that sucker out of the park. I wrote what I believe to be an awesome speech, and I rehearsed it night and day. I rehearsed it in the shower. I rehearsed it on the drive to and from work. I rehearsed it while walking the dog. I rehearsed it in my head while my wife was talking to me and thought I was listening to her. I rehearsed that speech like my life depended on it, because my plan was that I would know my speech so well there was no way I could possibly mess it up. That was my plan. Have you ever heard that saying, that the surefire way to make God laugh is to tell him what your plan is? The night of my speech, so far so good. I'm nervous, but I know my speech so well, I'm still getting through it. Everything is going according to plan. When all of a sudden, and without warning, the unthinkable happens. My worst nightmare unfolds, and my mind goes completely and utterly blank. I am suddenly that scared little kid in the classroom again, helplessly staring out into the audience, the proverbial deer in the headlights. Helplessly staring out into the crowd. The only thing I could think to say was, I don't remember my next line. I don't remember who it was, but there was this guy sitting right about where you're sitting, and he said to me two words that snapped me out of it. Two magic words that saved me. He said, "Been there." That did it. I suddenly remembered where I was and who I was. I wasn't that scared little kid anymore. I was a grown and confident adult. This wasn't that same hostile classroom where at any moment I could be the target of ridicule and humiliation. This is Toastmasters. These people aren't here to tear me down. These people are here to support me. In fact, they're rooting for me. You know what else I remembered? I suddenly remembered that I still had my written speech in my pocket. I took it out, I picked up where I left off, and I finished my icebreaker. I was so proud of myself. Not because I had done it perfectly, mind you. I mean, I hadn't. But because I faced my worst nightmare. I mean, it happened, and I survived it. I didn't just survive it, I worked through it. That was an infinitely more valuable experience than had I done my speech without a slip. Because it's not about the speeches, folks. The speeches are merely the whetstone that we use to sharpen our skills. They're the means to which we grow a new strength that become a superpower that we can take out into the world. It has empowered me to absolutely nail job interviews, to confidently give presentations and trainings in my job, and it's helped me through emotionally difficult times, when I gave the eulogies for both of my parents when they passed not long ago. Being a member of Toastmasters has been one of the most valuable experiences I've ever had. It has quite literally been one of the best gifts I've ever given myself. I can confidently state to anyone looking to use public speaking as a means to grow both professionally and personally that Toastmasters is the absolute best place you can do that. In conclusion, I would simply like to say, Madam Toastmaster,